The future, an unknown frontier. A world with technology right at the limit of what's possible, where science fiction meets science reality. A place where ghostly vehicles drive and navigate completely without need of horses.
Wait, horses? You mean drivers, right?
No, horses.
Why horses? We have cars.
Don't worry about it, I'm setting something up. Pretty scary, right? No? Not so much? Well, it used to be. People have always feared the unknown. And we've always had a complicated relationship with technology. Little bit of fear, little bit of hope.
I really think you mean drivers, not horses.
Dude, I'm getting there.
Everyone's worried that the driverless cars are gonna go full Skynet, get hacked or something.
That's kind of the point. I was drawing a parallel.
Horses can't get hacked.
About then and now, not horses and AI. The point is, the transition from carriages to cars made our great-great-great-grandparents feel pretty much the same way that the jump from modern cars to driverless ones make us feel.
Oh.
Different tech, same story.
Sweet parallels, Liv.
Thank you. I'm Sarah, and this is The Big Melt. History is full of tech panic. Like, people used to be afraid that trains would cause them to melt because the human body isn't meant to go that fast. They worried telephones would give them electric shocks and that TV would lead to moral decay and blindness. And hey, as old-timey as those might sound, if you sub in mutation-causing smartphones and world-ending social media, you see not much has changed on the human side of things.
Or TikTok. TikTok addiction is real.
The most dangerous of them all. But the thing is, fear of technology doesn't come from nowhere. For every goofy overreaction, there's some advancement that really did end up having terrible consequences. Like pesticides that increase food production but kill bees. And the really tricky thing is, you don't know what's going to be good and what's going to be bad. And sometimes it's both. Just look at climate change. The same advancements that caused global warming also gave us synthetic fertilizers, sterile medical tools, cars, indoor lights. All of the things that make modern life more comfortable and longer than before. Each of these new technologies came with complications, both good and bad, that were impossible to predict. Which leads me to this week's topic. The question of whether we should attempt to solve the man-made technology-induced climate crisis with more technology. I mean, we already are. At this very moment, there are teams of people working on advanced carbon capture machines, geneticists designing enzymes that can eat plastic, even people developing robot minds that could solve the problem for us. But should we? Knowing that it could possibly go wrong? For reals, what do you think?
I kind of want to see how the technology evolves because it's changed a lot in the past 20 years.
I'm terrified for technology to come because people are going to be so absorbed into it.
Some change is good because you can't stay in the same thing over and over and over again.
Companies like Tesla and NASA are creating new space technology, so then maybe one day we'll be able to live in space. Many environmental companies can come up with new ideas.
It is both something that got us into the problem, but is also something that can get us out.
Robots are going to do something.
If there were to be a robot prime minister, I don't know. It's scary, I think. I don't really like artificial intelligence. I'm fine with Siri in my phone because I can control it, but the second that they turn on us.
If we can come up with robots that can help reduce gas emissions, then I'm all for it. But if it's just another thing that will cause more emissions and be more environmentally unconscious, then it's probably not a good idea.
I'm glad I'm not the only one who feels conflicted about this one. I could go back and forth forever. Every time I read an article about some new tool to fight climate change, I get so excited, and then so worried. I mean, the things scientists are tinkering with are incredibly powerful. Oh, like, this is a good one. I read about a team of Japanese scientists who discovered a type of bacteria that can eat plastic, Ideonella sakaiensis, if you're curious. And they want to use it on the garbage islands in the ocean, which might be amazing and fix everything. But I can't help thinking, what if something goes wrong? What if it mutates? What if it starts eating other things?
Mutant plastic munchers. Great name for a punk band. Not that scary, though.
Okay, fine. Here's something that sounds pretty sci-fi. Carbon capture and storage. CCS is a type of negative emissions technology. While most climate change measures focus on reducing emissions, these ones are all about reversing them, literally. Direct air capture machines suck CO2 out of the air and store it underground, back where it came from. Putting the genie back in the bottle sort of deal. This may sound like a far-off, imaginary miracle solution, but it's not. This technology already exists. It's being used right now. At this very moment, there's a company running a research plant in Squamish, British Columbia that pulls 1 ton of CO2 from the air every day. Alongside pollution reduction and more efficient energy production, this could actually fix everything. And part of me really likes the idea of using the giant brains that caused this mess to clean it up. But it sounds almost too good to be true. I don't know, I think I need to call an expert. Steve Oldham is the CEO of Carbon Engineering and has studied robotics, computer science, and aerospace. If there's anyone who'd know what's going on with CCS, it's him.
Hello?
Hi, is this Steve Oldham from Carbon Engineering?
It is, yeah.
Oh, hi. My name's Sarah. I'm making a podcast about climate change, and I have a few questions about carbon capture and storage.
Sure. Nice to meet you, Sarah.
Nice to meet you, too. So let me start with a big question. Do you think it's possible to stop global warming?
Yeah, so obviously that's a great question, and yeah, this is a major threat to our way of lives. So what at Carbon Engineering, what we've been working to do is we talk a lot about all the CO2, carbon dioxide that leaves the planet and goes up into the atmosphere. And of course, it came from underground as part of fossil fuels in the first place. So our approach to solving the problem is to reverse that. Take the CO2 that is in the atmosphere, pull it back out, and bury it back underground again. So, it reverses the process. We have a climate change problem because we took carbon from underground inside the planet and put it in the atmosphere. The solution, reverse it.
Oh, that sounds great. But how does it actually work?
Yeah, so the technology that we have, and we've been developing this for a long time because one of the challenges in what I just described is CO2 in the atmosphere is about 400 parts per million. It's the equivalent of taking a drop of ink and dropping a drop of ink into a swimming pool and then pulling the drop of ink back out. So that's the concentration of CO2 in the atmosphere. So the technology to capture that efficiently and at a reasonable cost takes a long time to develop. But we have a fully working plant in British Columbia, and we use a basic chemical reaction. It's high school chemistry, if you like, but we implement it on pieces of equipment that are widely used in other industries. So we've borrowed technology from the cooling tower industry, the same type of technology that keeps buildings cool with air conditioning, from the water treatment industry, how we deal with sewage. We've borrowed those pieces of technology, we've put high school chemistry across it, and the combination of those two things allows us to capture roughly 70 to 80% of the CO2 from the air as we process the air through our plant.
Okay, I think I got the general idea. But can you explain, how do you physically capture carbon dioxide from the air? It sounds so complicated.
Yeah, so one of the steps of the process, to try and put it as simply as I can, the front end of the process is a big fan, and the fan draws air through. It draws air through a filter, That filter is made out of PVC plastic. We drip a chemical through that filter, and as the air passes through, the carbon dioxide in the air reacts with the chemical, and 70-80% of that is then transferred into the chemical solution. It's a liquid. The liquid drops to the bottom of the fan and the filter, and now at the bottom of that fan, we have about 4% CO2. So we've captured 70-80% of the CO2 in the air as it passes through the big fan, and it's now in a chemical compound.
Oh, that's so cool. I actually looked at pictures of your plant on your website. It's so sci-fi.
Yeah.
But I was wondering, doesn't it require a lot of energy to fuel the process?
So it requires energy for sure. I mean, a lot is obviously a subjective comment, but yeah, we use energy, but we use renewable energy. If we do use, in our plant in British Columbia, for example, we use natural gas for part of the process, but any of the emissions from that are collected as part of the process. So the plant is emission free, and then we collect CO2 from the atmosphere on top of that. And it's worth bearing in mind, our objective in fielding plants around the world is we would build plants in remote locations. Air is everywhere. So you can build our plant in many, many different locations. So we build where renewable energy plants can be easily built, where it's sunny, where it's windy. So it's incremental energy that we use. We don't take off the national grid or anything similar.
That sounds incredible. I'll be right back after this message. Okay, I'm back. What do you find the most exciting about this new technology?
So, to me, I take a step back and consider the climate change problem. How do we stop this problem of climate change? It is incredibly hard to stop every single emission on the planet. You see, as people protest and talk about the need for action on climate change, in the background you have cars, people have flown places, we have buildings being heated. Our dependence on fossil fuel and our ability to replace fossil fuel, that's going to take a long time. We have, fundamentally, our technology captures CO2 from out of the atmosphere. So the advantage of our technology, this principle that you can take CO2 back out of the atmosphere and put it underground, where it came from in the first place, it allows you to decarbonize anything at whatever speed you want. So I like to say, no excuses. A government or a company or an individual can't say, you know what, I can't decarbonize, it's too inconvenient, I need to drive to work, I need to fly, I need to heat my building. Those are all valid comments because we have an economy and people need to maintain and live. But with this technology, you can decarbonize in parallel, because for any CO2 emission that you make, as you fly, as you drive, as you heat your building, as you do whatever you do, we pull another CO2 molecule out of the air at the same time, and you get to net zero. So to me, the exciting thing about this technology is the ability to get to net zero without requiring the massive changes to our way of life that are going to take a long time to implement.
Yeah, I can see how exciting it can be to decarbonize everything we do without having to change much. But that leads me to my final question. What do you think is the role of technology in solving this crisis, especially when we don't know all the implications of it? But what we do know is that it was part of the problem in the first place.
Wow, that's a big question. In this case, we just don't have the luxury of ignoring technology to fix climate change. And the very simple reason is there's no other solution that's going to give us a potential to do it. My belief is that we can't instantaneously get rid of fossil fuels, too integral to our economy and our way of life. So in this case, we can't pretend or think that technology isn't going to be a part of it. It's essential.
Yeah, I can see your point. Maybe we really do have to use all the measures that are available to us to help solve this crisis.
Correct.
Well, thank you so much for talking to us. It was so interesting to hear about your technology.
Yeah, thanks for your interest, and I'm delighted that you'll include us in your podcast, and wish you every success.
Oh, thanks so much. I hope you succeed too. That would be amazing.
Thank you very
All right,
much.
have a great day.
All right, take care.
All right, you too.
Bye.
Bye.
Big melt!
So cool. I really hope he's right. If he is, if this works, it could change everything. But there are so many things to consider, so many tiny but crucial details. It gives me a headache. Kind of makes me wish someone could do my thinking for me, like an extra brain or thinking machine, you know? Like a brilliant machine capable of modeling problems and processing enormous caches of data, like an AI or artificial intelligence.
Yes, Sarah, I will do it for you.
What?
Please wait.
Okay.
Processing.
Where was I? That actually reminds me of this guy. His name's Jerome. He's this young activist from the States, and he knows everything about AI and VR. We've got to give him a call.
Okay, Sarah, dialing to Jerome.
Hello?
Hi, is this Jerome?
Yes, this is Jerome.
Oh, hi, Jerome. This is Sarah from the Big Melt podcast. How are you?
I'm doing pretty good. How are you doing today?
Oh, I'm great, thanks. Am I catching you at a good time? Oh, wait, it's Friday. Are you going to the strike?
Yes, I'm headed to strike right now in the White House. I strike there from 1 to 3 p.m., so I'm headed there now.
Oh my gosh, that's so cool. I'm glad I caught you then. You've been involved in the strikes for quite a while now, huh? When did you get started?
So, started hearing about Greta Thunberg and how she started climate striking, and in Sweden, she was, like, getting so much energy around her. And people in the U.S. were like, we definitely need to join in on this. And so that's when I started climate striking in front of the White House. It's been a really amazing journey. I got an email from Jane Fonda, who had heard about the work I was doing at the White House. And so she joined me and created her own thing called Fire Drill Fridays. And with Fire Drill Fridays, it got more adults to come out to the climate strikes and more adults to feel like they belong to the movement.
Oh, wow, Jane Fonda. Oh, she's amazing. And that's so cool that you could bring adults, too, to join the strikes.
Yes.
Now, I actually wanted to ask you a few questions about AI and VR and how they can help deal with climate change.
Okay.
I heard that you made VR that helped people better understand climate change and how it affects the world.
Yeah, so in 9th grade, I started a virtuality company called Tal VR. We want to show that climate change isn't just happening in one area, but so many people are being impacted by it. And then we have to show how diverse this crisis is and how diverse of a coalition we have to build in order to tackle the climate crisis.
Yeah, it is really important to show how it affects all of us. Okay, now about AI. Can you explain to us exactly what it is and how it can help fight climate change?
Yeah, so there are two types of artificial intelligence. Right now, we're using weak artificial intelligence, which is basically like predicting our words, having ads that are tailored to us when we go to Google or Facebook, and just having an overall more personalized experience on the internet. But then there's a second type of AI called strong AI, which allows for the artificial intelligence system to be able to self-adapt, like improve itself over and over again without any human input. So you can feed it 10,000 images and it can find patterns within it. And AI helps us to be able to quickly find the best places to place solar panels based off of the sun patterns and also off of the wind patterns. What they do is they have satellites where you can basically scan the Earth and figure out where the hot spots are. And that's really where AI comes in, is that we don't want to build solar panel infrastructure in a place that continues to be cloudy, as if we put it in another area that continually gets sun.
Wow. So it can actually think better than humans and tell us what's the best way to use renewable energy. That's crazy. But if it's so smart, isn't that kind of dangerous? Like, what if things go wrong?
Yeah, there's always things that can go wrong, but as long as you code it, and basically within the code, you make sure that it doesn't optimize in a place that you don't want it to go. Like, preemptively, you can just put it in a code blocker where it winds up shutting itself down, because if you allow it to update over and over again, it will store more and more memory. So if you just put a memory blocker on it, it doesn't continue to store more memory, and it will just stop right there. So it can go wrong if we give it no limits, but if we just put physical limits on like the hardware side of it, then the software won't take over.
Okay, so you don't think we'd ever go full Skynet?
No, I don't think so.
But what would happen if they somehow took out their memory blocker?
Sure. I feel like that's where it comes in with hackers. That can always happen, but as long as we code it and put firewalls up and put places where it can stop that, then that doesn't happen.
Hackers? I didn't even think about hackers. Ugh. Okay, now, if we take a step back, seeing how it all started to go downhill with the Industrial Revolution, how do you feel about relying on technology to help fix the climate crisis when it was technology that brought us to this point in the first place?
Yeah, I think that technology has definitely had a bad rap in the environmental movement. But coming from the technology industry to the environmental movement, it's been a shift trying to make sure that people understand the importance of merging technology with the environment. And really, we see technology blend with the environment when it comes to innovation like battery storage technology or energy density, trying to make sure that they are compatible with the infrastructure that we've already built and not try to reform every single thing. And technology is a huge way that we advance our society. And with the innovations, we can automate and optimize all of our systems to make sure that they're more energy productive and make sure that they aren't wasting so much energy.
Okay, yeah, that does sound like a good thing. Well, Jerome, thank you so much for giving us your perspective. I really hope that a strong AI will help solve these problems for us and won't go evil or something. Thanks so much.
It's been a pleasure.
Have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you too.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye-bye, Jerome.
Bye. That was so great to talk to Jerome. And now I definitely know who I'm going to call the next time I accidentally delete the operating system off my laptop. You know what? It's time. What time? The time when we bust climate myths. The busting of myths about climate time. Climate myth busting time. Oh, it's that time. Okay, so here it is. Human-caused CO2 emissions are just a tiny fraction of natural CO2 emissions. All right, so to bust this myth, we'll need to talk about the carbon cycle. The carbon cycle describes the movement of carbon into and out of the atmosphere via organisms, the soil, the oceans, and us. Within the cycle, elements act either as sources, meaning that they add carbon to the atmosphere, or sinks, meaning they absorb carbon and hold it. Some elements, like organisms, act as both sources and sinks. So, the amount of carbon circulating on a global scale is massive. And I mean truly massive. Billions of gigatons. Massive. The oceans hold about 37,400 billion gigatons of suspended carbon. Land biomass, which is all the organisms living or dead on the surface of the Earth, contain 2,000 to 3,000 billion gigatons. And this carbon is exchanged back and forth with carbon in the atmosphere, which sits about 720 billion gigatons. It's a lot. And when you hear that humans emit only 24 to 30 itty-bitty gigatons, it'd be easy to think that our contribution to the system is too small to have much impact. But here's the thing. The rate of exchange between the atmosphere, the oceans, and land biomass exists in a state of equilibrium. The amount of carbon that plants emit through cellular respiration and decomposition is almost exactly equal to the amount they absorb through photosynthesis. Same goes for the oceans. It doesn't matter how much carbon any given source produces, as long as the system stays in balance. In the case of man-made emissions, there's really nowhere for it to go. That's why we've observed a steady rise in atmospheric CO2 since the Industrial Revolution. It's almost comical when you look at graphs of this in action. For like hundreds of years, the line was just this wiggly little caterpillar at the bottom of the chart, and then the 1800s hit, and boom! It just explodes out the top. And just by coincidence, this graph-splosion perfectly lines up with humans figuring out combustion. So, yeah. Human-made carbon dioxide emissions may seem small compared to the total carbon cycling in the atmosphere, but because they're not balanced out, they have a huge impact on our atmosphere. This myth was busted.
So, I still don't get it. Is technology good or bad?
Beats me. Seriously. After all that, I still don't have the answer. On the one hand, like Greta says, there's really no need to develop new technologies to fight climate change. We already have the means to fight it by just changing our behaviors. But when I talk to people like Steve and Jerome, people actively pushing tech forward, I'm honestly in awe of their minds, of the kind of hopeful forward thinking it takes to step out into unknown territory. And I'm really hoping that if we temper that hope with good science and critical thinking, that minds like that, ideas like that, will help us change the world for the better. I can't really imagine any other alternatives. Oh, I almost forgot. Next episode, our guest is super special and super, super secret.
It's the Minister of the Environment!
Kyle.
Tune in.
It's gonna be awesome. Later, peeps. The Big Melt podcast is brought to you by Earth Rangers and hosted by Sarah Marks. It is written by Lee Lawson, directed by Stefan Richter, and edited by Nitai Steinberg. Production assistance by Avneet Sandhu. To learn more about today's episode or leave us a message, go to bigmeltpodcast.com. You can also take a quick survey for a chance to win a custom t-shirt. Don't forget to smash that subscribe button. And come on, show you care with 5 stars, please. Later, skaters.